agenda. You'll notice it looks a little different. Hopefully it will be smoother. Number 6, recognitions. There are none for this meeting. Number 7, public hearings. No items for this meeting. Number 8, let me explain what this is. Board members report. As part of this revised agenda structure, this is where board members, who I know all of you are involved in different things in the community related to schools and activities and stuff, this would be the place where you could put stuff on the agenda and sort of inform us of it. I think, you know, you might want to consider that. I know in the past year, different individuals have gone to workshops. Mr. Overfelt was a part of leadership. Del Rio, I know in years previous, leadership Casby graduates, Dr. Keys, Mr. Mesa. So, you know, all sorts of things are out there that we're doing, and this is just kind of a neat place to do it. It'd be simple as just telling Dr. Rios, as the agenda is being set, you know, that you want to be the board member presenting or talking that night about XYZ topic. So I think that will work out well. It's used in other districts that way, works pretty well. So keep that in mind in the near future if that's something that you want to do. Inform us about your goings on. Okay?
Can I report now?
Yes.
Applications are being taken for the FRN conference now.
Okay.
So
Very
you
good.
can go online, TASB, and
Everybody got that? Federal Relations Network?
Federal Relations,
Probably got an email to that effect.
up until September 7th or something.
Okay, so now 9 reports. These are just information items. So the first one being A, presentation of bell schedule for Assembly Memorial Middle School, Del Rio Middle School, Freshman School, and High School for the 13-14 academic year. Dr. Garza.
Thank you, Mr. Garbidian, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. As Dr. Rios talked about earlier, we have shifted a little bit in making sure that we implement this planning protocol. So we had to do something different at secondary schools to make sure that we would fit this in. At middle school, sixth grade through 8th grade, we changed the schedule to reflect a 9-period schedule so that elective periods could teach 7 classes, and the core area could teach 6, with one of those being a planning protocol. I'm sorry, 6 plus a planning protocol. So they will actually be working 7 periods themselves. In general, 3 major differences. At San Felipe Memorial, there is 9 periods. It extended the day 10 minutes, and it reduced the time periods from 50 minutes to 48. At Del Rio Middle School, it reduced the day by 7 minutes, and it reduced the period by 12 minutes. At the high school, once again, it went to 9 periods. It extended the day by 37 minutes, and it reduced the time per period by 2 minutes. Are there any questions?
So it extended it
It extended the day by 37 minutes.
and reduced
At
the
high
time
school.
by 2 minutes?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Leave my house.
What was your question again, Mr. Savina?
No, I was just asking whether.
Yeah, it extended the whole day by 37 minutes,
and
but it
by
reduced the
class-
periods by 2 minutes. Meaning, and the reason because of 37 minutes is because now there's 9 periods instead of 8.
So 6, 7, 8, and the high school now will all start at the same time.
6, 7, 8 will all start at the same time and end at the same time. And the rationale behind that, Mr. Orfeld, was because the planning protocol needed to be sectioned off so the instructional coaches could rotate between 6th through 8th grade.
And the high school's gonna start at 7:45 also.
The high school is going to start at 7:45
So
and
it's
end
all
at,
secondaries.
yes, more or less.
Okay.
And once again, freshmen through 12th grade are, I don't think they've ever been different. Any other questions? Yes,
This is kind of a sidebar, but transportation transportation-wise, we have everything ready to
Yes, ma'am.
accommodate the changes, or,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
One more thing, when we got together, all the principals, we included them so that they could give us all their input. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. It brings us to agenda item 10, the consent agenda. You notice what is on the agenda. Does any board member wish to pull any items from the consent agenda for discussion? Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda? Mr. Overfelt is motion, Mr. Chavita is second. All in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous, motion carries.
I just saw one here that, it's last about it, that revision, second reading and adoption of policy revision.
It's H, but there's no items. In other words,
It will be brought up at the regular meeting.
Yes, sir. But specifically, I think I don't want to insinuate I'm reading minds, but I think you're concerned about DEC local. And we will more than likely not be bringing that particular policy because we're doing homework on it. Both you and Mr. Chavira gave us direction on revising it to reflect more of how we compensate teachers for the days that they didn't use, or just personnel. And then Mr. Chavira gave us input on how we provide support for teachers who are new, who may need extra sick days. So what we've done is that we've started studying particularly Eagle Pass and Laredo, their policy, and seeing what kind of budget impact it would have for us, so that we'll probably wait another month to bring that one back so that we can bring something that's just worthy of your review rather than just put something together and bring it forth. So we want to review it, visit with you all about it, and then when we think we're ready to bring it, we'll, and that'll probably take an extra 30 days.
So this one really didn't need to be in here, H.
Well, and it's not, it says there's no items under that.
yeah, that's a good point, Mr. Mesa, on this reformatted agenda, and I know maybe we missed it, I should have said it. Those are categories where things will be, and that's why we put very clearly, there's no items. So, no, there wasn't anything, but that's a good point, like, yeah, for, when you come up for, when it comes back, a policy, it would go there, so that would be where you'd see it under the consent agenda. The ones that were the amendment of funds and the purchase orders. Any other questions? Okay. Brings us to 11, citizens to be heard, also known as public comments. Ms. Falcone, any public comments? No public comments.
I'm sorry, I missed the opportunity, Board President. I was gonna mention that on the previous discussion that we had, that I would bring the contracts over $5,000, but under 25 under a consent agenda item. I just wanted to point out that item G is where they would go. But there's none now, but that is a change that we had discussed.
Item 12, administration. Consideration to approve TASB delegate and alternate. First off, let me apologize to Dr. Hughes. Let me refresh your memory what we did last meeting. We had put it on the agenda, and we had discussed it, and we were all in verbal agreement that Dr. Hughes would be the delegate and Mr. Mesa would be the alternate. I'm sure we're still in agreement. And as we discussed that and came to agreement, we said, okay, we're moving on. Dr. Keyes, if I remember correctly, said, aren't we gonna vote? And I said, no, we didn't vote last year. And I looked around and everyone, no, we don't need to vote. Sure enough, I went back and looked the next day. We did vote last year. So when I talked to Dr. Keyes, asked him if he wanted to bring it back. We also said, well, why don't I call TASB? I called TASB. Their explanation was, well, if you agreed, that's fine, but if you could bring it back and actually do a vote, bring it back if you have time. We have plenty of time. The deadline is September the 20th. So I deferred to Dr. Keyes again. He said, put it to a vote. So there it is. That's the explanation for that. That's why it came back. Because it wasn't only last year, since, you know, I have no hobbies. I look at the minutes. It was the year previous too. So, when in doubt, vote. So thank you for your patience, Dr. Keyes and Mr. Mesa. So if there's no discussion, I so move to nominate Dr. Fernando Keys to be our district's delegate and Mr. Raymond Mesa to be our district's alternate for this year's delegate assembly at the TASB convention. Ms. Lozano has seconded, Mr. Chivita has seconded. All in favor by a show of hands? Unanimous. Motion carries.
It's official, okay?
And Ms. Falcone, the paperwork, I'm pretty sure it's September the 20th, so you'll get that squared away. Thank you. Okay, motion carries. We're through with 12. 13, curriculum and instruction, no items. 14, facilities and operations, no items for this meeting. That brings us to 15, business and finance.
Okay, under letter A, the first item, Ms. Julie is passing out the memo. What was included in the board packet, there was a note that we were still working on the calculations so that we would bring a revised memo back to you at the board meeting. So this is a consideration to discuss tax rates and take record vote and set the date for public hearing on the district budget and tax rates. Ms. Falcone has the, record vote so that she can take count. Again, this is in compliance with our property tax code, using the information from the state comptroller, from our truth and taxation database. Thank you. The notice will be posted in the newspaper on Sunday, August 11th. We only are required to post it once, but we're posting it twice and also on the 18th. Again, as we discussed in the workshop, our proposed tax rate is 1.17240, and it is not higher than our rollback rate of 1.180068. So are there any questions? If not, I can read the recommendation. Okay. It is the recommendation of the administration that the board take a record vote to set the proposed M&O tax rate of 1.040000 and the proposed INS tax rate of 0.132400, making a total proposed tax rate of 1.172400, and set the date of August 23rd, 2013 at 6 p.m. for the public hearing and adoption of the budget and tax rates.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. We need a motion and a second. It is a record vote, so by strict parliamentary procedure, if you raise your hand, Mr. Overfeld can call the vote. Okay, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chivita's motion, Mr. Messa's second. All in favor?
Mr. Trevita votes yes. Dr. Keys votes yes. Ms. Martinez Lozano votes yes. Mr. Garabedian votes yes. Mr. Orfeld votes yes. Mr. Mesa votes yes. Ms. Hain votes yes.
Thank you.
It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
15B, consideration to approve the district organizational chart and job classification for school year 2013-14. Ms. Valdez?
Okay, during the budget workshop, we presented the district organizational chart and job classifications for the 13-14 school year. Are there any questions?
I have one very insignificant question. The organizational chart, the top of the chart says Board of Education. Isn't this supposed to be Board of Trustees?
Didn't see that.
I mean, it can't.
Very good.
We want to be the state board.
We will, then you just make that revision. That's the only thing I caught.
Oh, yes. We will update that.
Questions or discussion? Yes?
the recommendation. The administration recommends approval of the 13-14 district organizational chart and job classification schedules.
Heard the recommendation, is there a motion? Mr. Overfelt, his motion is as amended, second. Second by Mr. Chavito. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
I don't know why I caught that, I just saw it.
I know we didn't.
Need to make sure I'm still on this. Check your button there, Cynthia.
Okay, agenda item 16, human resources and student services. And these, you'll also notice, coincide neatly with, the officer titles, proposed areas. Okay, consideration to approve the student code of conduct for the 2013-14 student handbook. Dr. McNamara presenting. Those were in your packet, two of them, at the two binders.
Okay. Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, Dr. Rios. At this time, I'd like to just briefly mention the process that was used in the review of the student handbook and code of conduct this year. We started in the early part of June. We developed a committee that was composed of two elementary representatives, those being Miss Billings and Miss Mudaida. Secondly, we invited two secondary representatives, which was Denise Rubio and Joe Rodriguez from Del Rio Middle School, to participate in the review of the current handbook that we had for this year and to consider a new format for next year. So the month of June, there were several meetings that were conducted to do exactly that activity. In doing so, the committee decided on an entirely new format, or a format that was used in the past, which is a two-column format, number one. Number two, there was an extensive review of the contents of that handbook to include a lot more information and to be a little bit more specific. We realized that the handbook that was used this year and board approved just did not offer the details that is needed by the campus administration. In the month of July, the handbook was provided to our principals for further review, additionally to the cabinet, and additionally to Dr. Rios. During the time, this time period from June until now, presently, and probably just about a week ago, it was also being reviewed by our school attorney, Mr. Joe Hofford. He was waiting until he did several edits of our handbook based on the recommendations of our committee. He also received information from TASB, from the legislative update, and that came in on July 15th, I believe. He spent about a couple weeks after that reviewing those particular guidelines and how they'd impact our handbook and provide us with a revision. So what was contained in your packet that was disseminated to each of you prior to this board meeting was, one, a handbook with all the revisions and edits, number one, so you could see the extensive work that was put into it this year, and number two, the clean copy, which was the white version. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over the presentation to Mr. Rudy Valdez, our new Director of Student Services, and Mr. Valdez is going to highlight the major changes of the handbook revisions. Mr. Valdez?